get into it. The new GTA 6 is going to be a fucking piece of shit. Wait, what? Is it from the Watch Dogs video? How did it get here? Does anyone know?
Every now and then I fall. Every now and then I lose control. But in your eyes I see your thoughts surrounding me, and I've a little bit of thought for you. Every now and then I fall a bit behind. Every time I stare into your eyes. Every now and then I fall a bit behind. Every time I stare into your eyes.
Okay, so let's pretend I'm not jumping on the hype train of the GTA 6 trailer, trying to attract as much attention as possible. This video is not about top 69 things no one cares about that you missed in the trailer, and it's not a reaction on it, or an attempt to be some sort of a nihilist, to, be not like everyone, to stand out from the crowd with one's very important opinion on why the game will succeed or fail. Yeah, there are people making such conclusions about an enormous complex open world game from a very notable studio by a single trailer, 2 years before the promised release. I've always been fascinated how ingenious some people are. Neither is an attempt to bring skepticism where it shouldn't be, although it's wise to stay frosty with announcements and trailers like that, especially in the gaming industry where it's very easy to trick people. Yeah, I'm talking to you, Ubisoft. The world still remembers Watch Dogs and the Division trailers and deleted downgrades to the condition of shit games had. This video consists of absolutely no opinion on the game. I'm generally happy that the new GTA is announced, and I do believe that the game deserves the attention and hype it's got. Not only because this is the game from a very prominent series, but also because this is the most important game right now for the gaming industry in a specific regard. Ready? Today we're talking about freedom. Jesus, am I in court or what? In particular, I'm going to talk about freedom of speech that everyone likes so much and brags about every time possible. Or is it really the case? At the same time, we live in the world where something is accused, cancelled, or banned every day. Jumping forward for a second, even the mentioned GTA trailer has already been accused of multiple absurd things like Zionist propaganda and other freaked out stuff. Maybe the fact of being cancelled shows that you are actually important in the modern world and bring value to it. Practically, it looks like a fucking comedy. We all know the today's cancel culture we live in. It touches all of our sources of information. All these social justice warriors have been actively canceling films, books, games, companies, people, and promoting their agenda, which in fact is a pure political propaganda. The politics and propaganda have always been present in art, and that's okay. If you think about it, everything in our world is a propaganda, one values or other. Even the freaking Fast and Furious and Transformers movies are propaganda in certain ideas and values. That's why I don't think I'm using the propaganda word only in the narrow context. Art is a way of depicting reality in one form or another and a method to discuss it. And games are obviously a part of it. However, with the modern cancel culture we have, this concept has completely been destroyed by the agenda this culture has brought. So, first of all, there is a situation of various standards and de facto acceptance rules for artworks that essentially work as censorship, breaking which makes the product or person behind it basically rejected. At the end of the day, it means that the right ideas, topics, opinions, vision And wrong. More than that, not only is a label of non-accepted or rejected applied, but it also leads to canceling products and their authors with stigmas like racist, sexist, Nazi, oppressor, and other words that are typically considered negative in this society and preventing the authors from the future work. This can be accusations of not having enough black-skinned people, Asians, or LGBTQ+ characters included. You may hear complaints of women being shown not strong enough or being too oppressed by male characters. Or my favorite one, the vision of the author is too sexistic, nazistic, or God only know what like that does not correspond to the modern cultural values. For some reason, somebody makes a decision for the author that their opinion on a subject is wrong, so just decides to ban them. An important part of this culture and agenda as such is banning everyone and everything who is against their opinion. Sometimes I feel like the Stalin himself has come to the modern art and is using all these methods. And all these decisions can be made despite the entire context of an artwork, which may lie in a few hundred years ago or in a different universe, where the world is obviously different. And this similar thing happens when the past is depicted not according to the modern standards, but how it really was with sometimes unpleasant things. Sometimes this is just insane. Red Dead Redemption 2 was heavily accused of multiple sexistic occurrences in the game, and no one cared that the depicted period was like that then, and it's actually made fun of sexism with many strong women present. But again, no one cared. So actually the whole point of using art for expressing yourself and showing something is lost. And it happens everywhere, in books, movies, games, music, etc. The idea of freedom within the art is vanished away with such approach. I like Steve Jobs' quote, "Think different." But how can I think different if it's wrong? Is it really a freedom when you get banned for an opinion that doesn't correspond to the declared one to adhere? In fact, if you look at it, that's an evident appearance of thought crime described in 1984, and a possibility to be punished for it, just in a softer form. And it doesn't matter if the accusations have any ground or not. Once they appear even with some absurd reasoning, a targeted product or person will probably have a hard time due to the nature of the agenda, snowballing the accusation one after another. And it's very hard to get over with them and stay clean. Remember Johnny Depp, who lost most of his contracts due to his case with Amber Heard? Just for accusations, not the proved case. It's a pure miracle he's been able to get out and more or less clear his reputation. In order not to get into the unpleasant situation with these social justice warriors, the creators obviously choose a safe path by adding all the appropriate topics and opinions just to fulfill the required standards and avoid the unpopular themes and topics. Just to play safe. What it has created is a situation when an author needs to persuade the community that their work is good to go according to the standards and shouldn't be banned. Basically, the presumption of innocence has been turned around and created a presumption of guilt with authors doing weird stuff just to make sure their work is approved. And unfortunately, I see more and more of this culture reflecting games. Take Overwatch as an example. Each non-binary, lesbian, or gay character is not just added to the game, but a huge emphasis is made on who they are in this regard. I have a simple question about it. Is it that important? Is it really important what a character does and with whom between the matches? Does it really matter in a game like Overwatch? I understand that this information is added as a part of background and lore for the character, but specifically this topic is clearly a work for agenda for the game to be approved. And this is just a single example from games. There are many other games and movies creating a clear comedy out of all that. A comedy which is not only funny to look at, but also scary, because it clearly kills the art. The product becomes everything, but not what it initially meant to be. I know it's quite hard to tell when it happens, but for me it's a red flag when I feel that the main topic of a game or a movie is not the one intended, but just following the agenda. The creative part becomes absolutely secondary, with the propaganda playing the main role. Another thing that this tendency has brought is games becoming less and less sharper. What I mean is that the developers prefer to avoid edgy topics, not make tricky jokes, generally be white and fluffy in order not to risk with offending anyone by chance. And it just feels loosey as the magic and soul of games just disappears, making them simple, empty, and flat with no interesting ideas inside. Basically a filler. And it's not hard to understand why that happens. The risk of failure with the product or even with an entire career is immense. Imagine creating an expensive game for a long time and then being kicked off and cancelled due to some absurd reason. It's a risk that not many people and companies would take. Though understanding doesn't mean the approval of it. I feel like today everyone is looking for a reason to be offended by something. It can be a joke, an opinion, or a vision on a subject that immediately requires banning the author. Sometimes I feel like people have completely lost their sense of humor nowadays, lacking an ability to ironize and joke on themselves. Or maybe they are just trying to attract attention this way. And for some reason, an entire culture of that has been created. And the reason why the GTA series and the newly announced game are so important in this regard is because the Rockstar's games have always been a so-called island of freedom in the gaming industry, even despite the cancel culture we have. Their games are full of jokes, satire, irony, dark humor, and discussions of everything what our world really is. Social inequality, racism, slavery, drugs, guns, bullying, controversial opinions, etc. They've never been afraid of discussing that and critique the modern society in a way that may not be aligned with the today's agenda, joking on it, trolling people's most absurd desires, and making fun of all of that. Come on, one of their most popular games is about bullying other people. I genuinely admire such braveness that I can't really imagine today. Sexual orientation, skin color, social status, and other controversial things have never been a taboo for them. I can't imagine any other game making fun of, let's say, a gay couple with GTA. And I think this is amazing. Amazing is not this kind of jokes, but having balls to use it in the game. And it can be funny, because, surprise, surprise, there's a difference between humor and hatred, and this is what's called freedom. Freedom to discuss serious topics from various perspectives, making fun of it, and not pretend they don't exist so creators are afraid of being cancelled because of them. Yes, these things exist in our life, and attempts to pretend they don't look silly to me. The GTA games have always been a satire on the depicted society, exposing its most controversial inner parts. But unfortunately, less and less studios are brave enough to bring these topics in their games. And I understand why. The price is very high. I can hardly imagine somebody adding a similar scene today.
I'm sorry. Where are my manners, right? Amanda, it is good to see you. Oh, I missed you. You used to be fatter. Nice new tits, by the way. Jimmy, you used to be thinner, but I can't blame you. Who are you?
Namaste. I'm Fabian.
Good Lord.
To be honest, I was very surprised even 5 years ago when Red Dead Redemption 2 was released. The depicted historical period was not the most tolerant one, to say the least. But Rockstar didn't play the game of obedience and showed everything the way it was, with dark and realistic moments of that time, even despite multiple accusations. This is cool and, from my opinion, deserves respect, as they have shown everything as it was. And that is one of the reasons why people praise their games so much, for being honest and not trying to hide inconvenient details. A lot of time has passed since the RDR2 release. From my opinion, the rules have become even stricter and absurder, so seeing a new GTA announced gives mixed feelings. Also, I was a bit surprised to see a quite brave depiction of women, which is also often regarded as one of the reasons to cancel games among SGW fellas, due to over-sexualizing things. By the way, this has already been spotted almost immediately, as well as some voodoo Zionist propaganda, which I've no idea how to comment on. And don't get me wrong, this is not only about humor and satire. The stories Rockstar write are not just everyday fillers with the predefined happy end. Their games have adult stories, discussing serious problems and touching important topics with well-thought characters inside. I still remember Michael actively fighting with the past, but not being able to find a place in today due to the overwhelming problems surrounding him. Or Arthur Morgan, whose life becoming harder and harder every day, as he sees the world he lived and trusted in is falling apart. They are not afraid of touching the hardest and most complicated topics of our life and discussing them so well. And I really want to see this continue. I hope the new game will have a mature story, dark if needed, violent, not trying to smooth things over, not just happy end with butterflies, but our severe and realistic life. On one hand, the least thing I want to see is a GTA becoming obedient. As I said, I've always felt of GTA being a place of freedom, and it just won't feel like a GTA 6 game becoming conformant to all these norms and being afraid of making jokes, telling good stories and insulting somebody, completely losing its soul this way. On the other, for some reason I feel like no other studio can do this besides Rockstar today. Essentially, they are some sort of a last hope of free speech in the gaming industry right now. And I really hope this to continue, and to see the GTA 6 being brave enough and strong to have the GTA acronym in the title. Otherwise, it would be a huge sign of free speech death in games for me.